Hello and welcome to today's Up to Thrive, Manage Your Mind, Mindful Moment.
Welcome to Up to Thrive, your go-to podcast for women's wellness in midlife, designed to educate, support, and inspire you to live your very best life. And now your host, Dr. Corina Sims.
Today we're going to do something a little bit different. I haven't done this before. You're going to come for a walk with me because today's episode is about my walks with my not so little dog, medium-sized dog, my old dog Jazzie. Several mornings during the week, and even sometimes now that we've got daylight savings, we do it sometimes in the afternoons too, like after clinic, we go on a walk. So Jazzie is my old black Kelpie, and anyone who's been around a Kelpie knows that they've got their own minds and they're pretty energetic dogs. Jazzie has this special tag that she's got on her collar around her neck, has my mobile phone number on it because she used to be an escape artist. It seemed like no matter what we did, we just couldn't keep her in our yard. Over and over, she'd somehow find a way out. She'd sneak off the property, down the road. Sometimes we find her across town. And she's even spent some time with the dog catcher. My kids and my husband and I, many hours have been spent driving around calling out her name, trying to find her until I got this tag. This tag has made all of our lives so much easier. So after she got the tag, if she'd somehow find a way to escape the yard, she'd often just wander about until I think she got tired or hungry and didn't seem to, I don't know if she was too lazy to come home or she just would get lost. I don't know. I can't imagine. Jazzie has had some seizures in her lifetime, so I've often wondered if she's got a bit of a hypoxic brain injury. And so it wouldn't surprise me if she couldn't actually find her way home. So she'd just wander into someone's house, onto their property, up to someone's house, to their door, and get their attention. And usually they'd fall in love with her. Most people really liked her and they'd call. They sounded quite fond of her. But they'd give me a ring to come and get her. So I met lots of new people this way. I also found out where lots of people live that I have met before. Most people are pretty kind and pretty gracious. Only had a few grumpy people along the way. But these days, Jazzie's a bit less of an escape artist because she's getting a bit old. When we first moved onto our farm a few years ago, it's a pretty decent sized property, and we thought that, well, I don't think my husband thought that, but I thought that maybe it was a big enough property that maybe she would just stay put. Maybe she'd just stay on the property. But a few phone calls later, we decided she needed to have her own little dog yard. So built her own little spot, which she absolutely loathes. Over the last few years, I've watched her change from this rambunctious, young, energetic Kelpie with heaps of energy, raring to go. And when I'd free her from her little prison, put her on the lead, we'd head off on our walk. She'd run around like mad and very energetic and ready to go. But the aging process is catching up with her. And over the last few years, especially, our walks have shortened and slowed down. What used to be a 6-kilometer rapid walk off the property, down to the river, along the riverbank, and then back up through the other side to home has now become half that distance, and it takes us about the same amount of time. But now, when I let Jazzie out of her little prison, it's like she still thinks that she's a bit young, and when I let her out now, it's like she forgets how old she is, and she does a few little runarounds and then gets going at a good pace for about probably not even 50 meters. It's like she does her business and then realizes, I think, not as young as I used to be. So slows down to this really meandering pace. And on our old wobbly legs, we walk the perimeter of our property down to the lagoon that sits behind my house and we sit for a little while and take in all the sounds, the frogs and the birds. I've talked about the birds around here before. They're amazing. I've got swans, and sometimes there's pelicans and hawks and crows and magpies and lorikeets and minor birds and willy wagtails and little wrens. There's just heaps and heaps of little birds and at least a couple of different frogs. And these walks have become a real mindfulness practice for me. Time to just be and time to reflect. While we're walking at this snail's pace, and I'm watching Jazzie's little gray paws just slowly making their way. I'm witnessing her slow down, and it reminds me that our time left together is limited, and it seems to really add to this feeling of presence that I get. I'm really acutely aware of the sounds of the dried gum tree leaves and the little twigs that are snapping below my feet as I walk, and the crunchy sound and the feel of the sand and the dried clay, especially a day or two after it rains. There's this beautiful, spicy, like cinnamon type, I can't even put my finger on it, this smell that comes around this time of year. Some plant out here that's growing that just smells so lovely. Sometimes I'll just stop and just take in this beautiful smell. And it's during these times that my mind is as quiet as it gets. And that's really saying something for my mind. And I have some of the most profound thoughts. Now, not profound in the way that they're like groundbreaking for anyone else, but they just really bring me back to what's really important in my life. Watching Jazzie really reminds me just how short our time here is, and that these moments when I can just be, that I can connect with that feeling of peace that right here, right now, with that sun shining down on my face, Jazzie's little paws, and the feeling under my feet, there is absolutely no problem right here, right now, in this very moment. It's like a little 45-minute respite from life with all its challenges. I still sometimes get really surprised when I encounter challenges, drama, feelings of guilt or shame, because I think I've done all this work and I should be somehow immune. Truly, I really think I should be a total Zen master with all the work that I have done to this point in my life, but I'm not. No, these things still happen from time to time. I read the other day, someone wrote, I can't even remember where I read it, but someone wrote that life is about growth and there will always be challenges. And I thought, wow, that's really, really true. I really believe that. How boring would life be if we weren't continually growing and pruning and reblooming and then having, those winter times where we're resting and rejuvenating and getting ready to go again. Then we continue to rebloom better and better and better. I believe it's how we meet these challenges that grows us or shrinks us, that strengthen us or weaken us. And I remember, it's all a choice. Even if I do get hung up on any of these little challenges for a short time, and I still have my little pity parties from time to time and allow myself to just wallow in it for a minute. But then I remind myself of my choices. I can shrink or grow, thrive, or just survive. So then it's right. What is my best way forward from here? I try not to drown it with food or alcohol, as that may or may not have been a previous processing mechanism for me. I try not to bury it and just forget it. I've done that before too, and I know what that gets you, and trust me, that's not good. I do my best to feel it and process the emotion. Sit with it. Make friends with it. Something like that. Even if it's in little, tiny increments. We all know guilt and shame, just to name a couple negative emotions, can be very painful. So taking them in really itsy bitsy tiny doses of processing sounds quite reasonable to me. I have on these walks also had some really healing little cries too. I've comforted myself when my heart was hurting. I reminded myself it's all going to be okay. And sometimes I remind myself that I'm being a little bit ridiculous. Sometimes I'm being a bit too hard on myself. I've shown myself some compassion and grace and kindness. I know I've made mistakes, and I've learned, and I continue to learn, and I don't always get it right, but I do know I really am doing the best I can. And I really do believe that we are all just doing the best we can where we're at in any given moment. And really, in the scheme of things, what really matters most, what's really important, is what Jazz reminds me of on every one of these walks. I'm not going to be here one day, and on that day, when I do go, I can just about guarantee some of the stuff I could have wasted my happiness and joy on were definitely not worth it. And if I can keep that front and center, it really helps me stay focused and not get caught up in all the insignificant BS that pretends to be important because it really just isn't. I can deal with so many of those things without giving away my happiness and my joy. No drama, just deal with it, move on. Because besides the love and connection with my loved ones, my friends and family, what's really important to me in this one life that I get to live is that I find as much joy as I possibly can in each and every moment. So, friends, as we're talking today, can you think of somewhere in your life that maybe you're giving your joy away? Are you buying into some drama that you don't need to be? Trust me, I really don't think drama is ever really necessary. Is there something bringing you down that doesn't have to? Can you see any place where you're giving away your power? Where you can just deal with it and move on and leave it where it belongs and not heavy on your heart? Where today can you thrive and not just survive?
I hope you've enjoyed this Manage Your Mind mindful moment. And if you have, and you can think of someone else who might enjoy it, please pass it on. And don't forget to rate and review the podcast to make it more visible to those who might get something out of it too. Have a great week, everyone. And until then, I hope you opt to thrive.
The Opt to Thrive podcast is designed for information purposes only and is not engaged in the giving of medical advice. The information provided on the podcast should not be used for diagnosing or treating a health problem or disease. In no way should the information provided by Opt to Thrive be considered medical advice, and at all times the advice of a medical professional should supersede recommendations from Opt to Thrive. If you have or suspect you may have a health problem, you should consult your healthcare provider. The views expressed in this podcast are purely that of Dr. Sims and do not in any way reflect those of the institutions she contracts her medical services to.
Thank you for listening to Opt to Thrive. If you've enjoyed listening, please rate and share the podcast. You can visit our website at opttothrive.com and leave a comment for any subjects you would like to hear more about.